So today's shir is sponsored Leilui Nishmas Matisyahu ben Shlomo Zalman and Malkah bas Yisroel Zev. May the Nishmas have an aliyah and schus of the limud haTorah. And if anyone wants to sponsor a future shir, you can go to Rabbi Moshe and he can arrange it for you. We're holding on page 76. We're holding 2 lines from the top. And last week, we spoke at length about that which it says in Pirkei Avos, "V'hevi shval ruach b'fnei kol ha'adam," that you have to be humble before every person, and the way to be humble before every person, regardless of who that person may be, is by being mekayim another statement in Pirkei Avos, which is Al tadin es chavercha ad shetagia l'mkoimei. Don't judge your fellow until you've been in his place, because we don't know. We can't relate to other people's struggles. And as mentioned last week, the very fact that we are judging someone else for failing in their struggle, that itself is the biggest proof that you don't have that struggle. Because if you had that struggle, you wouldn't judge that person. One alcoholic doesn't judge another alcoholic. Even a recovering alcoholic doesn't judge an alcoholic. In other words, not even someone who's struggled with it and has overcome, because he can appreciate the struggle. Only someone who is not an alcoholic, why are you drinking? With this righteous self-indignation and self-righteousness. They have no idea what the struggle is all about. So we have to recognize that we are not in the other person's shoes. We don't have to go through the same struggles that person is going through. And the struggles that person is going through, whether it's due to nature or due to nurture, whether it's due to his genetic makeup, his unique Yetzer Hara, or due to environment, and due to past traumas, whatever it may be. But every person is unique, and we can't judge another person, regardless of what the person is doing. Because the core assumption, we all discussed this last week, the core assumption is that, how could you? I would never. That's ridiculous. Now, when you meet someone who has done something wrong, and we say, Al tadin es chavercha, don't judge that person. The typical way, the person who's non-judgmental, is a person who views everything as everything is subjective, and therefore you say it's wrong, maybe it's not wrong, maybe it's not so wrong. So I see that every person is entitled to make their own choices. In other words, one way of not judging another person is by minimizing the significance, the damage, the terribleness of that behavior. So if it's not so bad, then I don't judge you that much. And that is not at all what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here. And let's look at this inside. 2 lines on the top of page 76. V'hinei be'emes, in truth, gam mishu mechuma moed b'tivai, even someone who naturally has a very, very heated Yetzer Hara. And moreover, uparnasasa hiliyes miyesh v'kranes kol hayoim. And not only is this person naturally prone to struggles and to temptations, but then to compound the issue, this person also, his occupation requires him to be on the streets all day, which further incites and instigates him to do averis. So one might think that, okay, we can give this person a pass. This person has a very, very strong Yetzer Hara, very, very difficult struggles. Added to that is the person is constantly put in situations which are very filled with temptations. So nish gefarlach. I'm not going to look down at the person. Why? Because given the context, it's excusable what the person has done. So we're minimizing that which the person does. Says the Alter Rebbe, absolutely not. Even this person who has a powerful Yetzer Hara and powerful temptations, and terrible struggles, and is put also in compromising situations. Ein lo shum isnatzlos, there's absolutely no excuse. Al chatov, nothing, he has no excuse for the sins that he has done. Umikri rasha gomer, he is a rasha gomer, a complete rasha. Al asher ein pachad delekim leneged einav, because of the fact that he doesn't have the fear of Hashem before his eyes. Ki hoyelelis apek, he should have controlled himself. V'lim shoel al ruach tavasi shebelibai, and and been in control and overpowered and ruled over the temptations and the taivas of his heart. V'mnei pachad Hashem, due to the fear of Hashem, hareya kol maisav, who sees all his deeds, as will be explained later. As we learned in Perek Yud Beis in chapter 12, the mind by nature has the ability to control the heart. So the fact that you have a heart and you have Yetzer Hara that seems to be out of control, and the fact that also you're put into difficult situations, does not excuse you one iota from having done what you have done, or this person. So when we say don't judge a person, we're not giving the person a pass. And we're not saying that which the person did isn't terrible and horrendous. What are we saying? So, first of all, the deed is an Aveira. There's no excuse for that. And the person is a Rasha Gomer. There's no sugarcoating, there's no whitewashing what the person has done. So if that's the case, so back to the original question, so why shouldn't I judge the person? The answer is, yes, that person did a terrible thing. The deed was terrible, and that person is a Rasha. But the question is, relative to you, in a vacuum, looking at it, objectively, yes, the person is a Rasha, and the deed is an Aveira. But who is the one who's judging that person? That's you, right? So the question you have to ask yourself is not, is the person a Rasha, and not, is the deed excusable or not? And the answer to the first one is yes, is a Rasha. The answer to the second one is no, the deed is not excusable. The question is, do you have the right to judge that person? And for you to judge that person, you have to be able to look at yourself and say, in those areas in my life where I have to have that tremendous struggle, a struggle on par which is required of that person. In other words, here's a person who has a very difficult struggle and a very difficult Yetzer Hara, and is put in compromising situations. I can only imagine how difficult it would be for that person to overcome the struggles and to be victorious in those areas. So in those areas in Avodas Hashem in my life, which require that struggle, do I prevail over my Yetzer Hara? And if the answer is no, then I have no right to look down at that person. Although the person is a Rasha, and although that person is, and Aveira is an Aveira. This is a very, very important point. In terms of, doing what is called kiruv. Rebbe wasn't a fan, by the way, of the word kiruv. No.
What word did he prefer?
Being meifetz yadus, spreading Yiddishkeit.
What do you call it?
Hafatzas hayadus, hafatzas hamayanas, spreading Yiddishkeit, spreading chassidus. Kiruv has a condescending sound to it. Kiruv sounds that like he's far and I'm close.
Like a missionary.
What?
Like a missionary.
And who said you're close? Who said he's far? Your job is to teach people Torah. The word kiruv has a certain. The Rebbe also was very did not like the word secular Jews, or in Hebrew chilonim. What do you mean? There's a Jew that's a secular Jew. How's that possible? There should be a Jew who's the word chiloni comes from the word choil. Every Yid is kodesh. Every Yid is holy. But when we're dealing with people who aren't, we're trying to bring them to learn more Torah, to do more mitzvahs. So we have to be loving and we have to be non-judgmental, as mentioned earlier. As mentioned last week, when you're judgmental, then you're putting up a wall that makes it impossible for you to have an influence and an impact on the person. But chas v'shalom, that doesn't mean that you're giving the person a pass, or that the averis that the person is doing are in any way considered excusable. No. But despite all that, we are not in a position to judge. Why? Because that person and where that person is due to circumstances which I can't judge that person for. Perhaps that person was born to parents who aren't from. In which case, obviously, then how can I judge that person? And if I was in a similar situation, would I be behaving any differently? And let's say the person was born to from parents and even had a from education upbringing. We all know that most of the people who go off the way of Yiddishkeit, it's not because it's because of different personal issues and traumas and social issues and family issues. I'm not saying that's true 100% of the time, but in many of the times. So who are we to judge people? But again, that means that I can't judge that person. It doesn't mean that objectively the person is excused for anything. An aveira is an aveira, and there's no sugarcoating that. Yes?
It's based on everything you just said. If someone is on the level that they're a tzaddik and they have overcome the struggles of the Russia, then they have to balance it with Am Yisrael, because if they have the reshus to look down at this other person, it may affect their Am Yisrael of the other Jew.
I find in this lesson, in this class, not today, but in general, there's this fascination with tzaddikim. I have no idea. As I mentioned in the past, this is a Sefer Shalbein, and talking about us.
The possibility of someone who could actually have the reshus to judge other people. It's a remote thing.
Alan, if you are 100%, if after you finish this perek, and we're going to talk about the different struggles, you can say that you pass with flying colors all of these struggles, then I give you the right to walk out and judge and condescend anyone. Okay?
I'm not talking for me.
Oh, okay. So who are you talking for?
To understand what the Sefer is.
The only person in this room who's important is you. In terms of what?
Me too.
Yeah. When I said you, I was talking to every single person over here in the room, but in a singular way. In a singular way. If it applies to you, all's good. Otherwise, it's theoretical. There's the Rebbe once said that there was someone who once went into the Frierdiker Rebbe, and he asked him two questions. One was about his Avodas Hashem, and one was about the Avodah of Malachim. Question about the Avodah of Malachim. So the Frierdiker Rebbe answered him about his Avodas Hashem and said, the Malachim, you'll manage without. You'll manage without the answer. You could probably manage without knowing how the tzaddikim manage. But I'm sure tzaddikim don't judge other people. They also fulfill the Mishnah. How they go about not judging other people, that's a good question. In other words, they would seemingly have somewhat the right to but you know what's interesting is that it says about Moshe Rabbeinu. It says, the pasuk says, we had it a few weeks ago, Moshe haya anav mikol adam mashal pnei adama. So there are a few places in Chassidus Chabad where it says, and there's no mucker for this. There's no mucker asay Chassidus Chabad, which is interesting. In other words, it's like, I don't remember which Rebbe, I think maybe the Mittler Rebbe said it first. He said that why was Moshe so humble? He says that when he saw, within his Devuah, he saw the Yidden of our generation, of Ikvis of the Mashiach, the last generation before Mashiach comes, learning Torah and doing mitzvahs and Mesiras Nefesh, that's what made him humble. It's amazing. It shows just how great the challenges are of our generation, and how even Moshe Rabbeinu was humble. So that's the idea of a tzaddik also can relate to the idea that he doesn't struggle, but there are other people who do struggle, and that can also al kapana. Yeah.
We're kind of quipping that, like, if you didn't have that struggle, then you would sort of have the reshus, but a certain problem, apparently not, actually. Let's say a person had none of those struggles and never struggled, the Torah probably doesn't give them permission to judge, still, even in that case. Even in that case, you're not getting, because you're, maybe because...
struggle, finish. It's not the guy. It's not the guy.
What?
He's saying it's not applicable. People don't. We're talking about people who don't struggle, and it's not.
What do you make? Well, now if we have struggles, this is the issue. What do you like? If it would be now is
the person doesn't struggle.
There's no such a thing. We struggle. Finish. That's it. What if it be? If it would be?
No, I think this is a significant point. There's no the point I'm making is there's no reshus to judge. That's what I'm trying to say. Whether you have a struggle or you don't have a struggle.
We're learning about struggle.
It's true. What you're saying is true. Because what it says in Pirkei Avos about judging is correct.
Which is what?
But since we are talking here at Sefer Shalbein, and then we're talking to people who do struggle, and presumably that's all of us, so that's what we're focused on.
I'm just saying that under the current, in the background we're saying, as if to say that if you didn't struggle, that you would have permission. All I'm trying to say
if you didn't struggle, then there's another, there are other ways not to judge other people. But that's not relevant for us.
You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah. By the way, okay, we'll get to this later. Okay, moving on. V'hine be'emes, 8 lines from the top of page 76. V'hine be'emes, in truth, even though they were not in any way vindicating or exonerating this person who did not avera, but we do have to understand shehi milchama gedola va'atzuma lishper ha'yetzer. It is an incredibly great and tremendous battle to break the Yetzer Hara, haboyer ke'esh lahava, which burns like a blazing fire. Mibnei pachad Hashem, in other words, to utilize one's fear of Hashem to overcome the Yetzer Hara. U'kemoy nesoyin mamish. It's mamish on nesoyin. In other words, we have to realize what this person is going through. This person who's, this kal shebekalm, this low life we're talking about, that person is failing, but we have to understand that for the struggle this person is going through is mamish like an asayin. The hilkach, and therefore, tzarich kol adam, every single person, lefi masher hu mekaymi madrigasei b'avedas Hashem, relative to his or her own level in a service of Hashem, every single person needs to lishkoil v'livchein ba'atzmai, to weigh himself and test himself, imhu oived Hashem, and ask himself, am I serving Hashem be'erech u'bechinas milchama atzuma kazu, in a way, with such a battle, v'nesoyin kazeh, and this kind of nesoyin. In other words, in those areas of my avodas Hashem that require a battle which is as difficult as and par with the battle that person has to. So that person's battle is whether or not to eat a cheeseburger. That person's battle is whether or not to kill a person. That person's battle might be in the lowest areas. But at the end of the day, I have to look at myself and say I have to compare apples to apples. I can't say, oh, I don't kill people, you do. That's apples and oranges. I don't have the struggle in that area, you do. The apples to apples is, where's my struggle, where is your struggle? So in those areas where I have to struggle, on this level of struggle, how am I doing in those areas? And he's going to start off, let's start off with talking about doing the right thing. In other words, doing in the area of doing, not about doing averis, but in the struggles that we have to have in the areas of Vasei Tov and doing what's right. Kigoyin, for example, B'avedas HaTfilah. It's interesting, this is his first example that he brings. When it comes to davening, he's not talking about the struggle whether or not to daven, but the struggle to daven b'kavana. I think we all can relate to this. The struggle to daven with concentration. Lishbeich nafshay lefnei Hashem, to pour out one's soul before Hashem, b'chol koichei mamish, with all one's strength, ad mitzui hanefesh, literally until the neshama goes out, or not literally, but to do battle with one's body, and the person's nefesh habaham is hamoinim hakavana, that try to impede the kavana. B'milchama atzuma, and this requires, to do this, to have kavana requires a tremendous milchama. Ulevatsham ulekatitam ka'afar, and it's necessary to decimate and to crush the guf of the nefesh habahamis ka'afar, like dirt, to make it like earth. Koydem atfilah, before davening, shachris va'arvis, morning and night, midei yom b'yom, every single day. That's before davening. Before davening, to take the time to put oneself in the emotional and spiritual state, as will be explained later on in Perik Membeis, what this means. And v'gam b'shasat tefillah, during davening, liyageya atzmai, to toil, b'yigias nefesh v'yigias basar, a toil of the soul, a toil of the body, as will be explained later on at length. And anyone who has not yet reached this level, to do this incredible battle with the body every single day, morning and night during davening. So adayin lehigia, you have not yet reached lebechinas ve'erach milchamas hayetzer, to the caliber of that milchama against the Yetzer Hara, habayir ke'esh lahava, which is burning like a blazing fire. In that low life, liyes nichbav nichna v'nishbar v'pachad Hashem, to be subjugated and broken before the fear of Hashem. So that's one example.
How do you do this all?
How do you do this all?
Yeah.
You're saying it's too difficult.
I don't know how you go about to go.
Is that the issue, that you need a user's manual? You know, A, B, C, D. In other words, your question: how do you do it? Is it just tell me how and I'll do it, or
what's the technique involved here?
It's too hard to do it? What are you saying?
Both.
Okay. So the technique we'll get to later. But in terms of the how can I do it, how hard it is, I want you to understand that person who you're judging for what they've done, they have that same attitude about what they're doing wrong. How do I win that struggle?
How do you do that? I'd like
Good.
to know.
So, but the point is that just like you have your struggle and you say how, they have their struggle and they say how. So how do you judge such a person?
I don't.
Good.
I can't even judge myself.
What kind of mitzvah is this?
No, yourself you're allowed to judge.
What kind of mitzvah is this? My tefillah is only the Buna, no? It's not the Rishtat where they have to do it such an amazing man's.
Hold your question. We'll get there. V'chein binyan birchas hamazon. And the same thing when it comes to birchas hamazon. I think that when it comes to davening, so it's more normal to get yourself psyched up and in the emotional place necessary. But birchas hamazon, just after you're finished eating, sitting by, it's usually not the most conducive place to suddenly start having a major kavana. The chol birchas and all the brachas that we make, all the brachas we make on foods, or other pleasures that we have, and birchas hamitzvos bekavana, ve'ein tzarich leimar, and do we even need to mention kavanas hamitzvos lishman? When you're doing a mitzvah, actually doing the mitzvah and having kavana while you're doing the mitzvah, that it's lishma. Next struggle. The next struggle is when it comes to learning Torah. To learn much more than what you naturally desire to learn, based on your nature and based on your habit. Which again, this requires this again requires a tremendous milchama with one's body. If you're only learning a little more than than your nature, in other words, you're pushing yourself. But if you're only pushing yourself a little, that's nice. You get 10 points. But that's only a little battle. You can't compare that to the milchama Yetzer Hara of that person who you're trying to judge. Habayir ke'esh, that's burning like fire. The mikri rasha gamor, that person will be called a rasha gamor. If he doesn't overcome his Yetzer Hara, nichna v'nishbar, to be broken and humbled b'nei Hashem, before Hashem. Now, you can say to yourself, sorry?
Could it be his fault that he landed in this situation? Maybe he just didn't see himself sliding. So now I'm blaming him for becoming that way to begin with.
So you're blaming him not for his struggle today, but for the struggle that he had 15 years ago. What's the difference? But now we have a question. Okay, so you're telling me that I can't judge the person because we're both struggling, we're both battling. But there's a difference. That person is eating non-kosher. That person is a ganef. That person is pasha doing things that you're not allowed to do. They're all in the area of sur mirah. And me, I've never done anything wrong. Theoretically. You're telling me that when I daven, I don't have enough kavana. You tell me that I'm learning. Yeah, I do learn. But it's only It's only, I'm learning a little more than what, I'm pushing myself a little, not pushing myself a lot. So how do you make that comparison? Says Alter Rebbe, Mali b'chinas surmira, Mali b'chinas vasitoiv. What is the difference, surmira or asitoiv? Hakoil hi mitzvahs hamelach hakodesh. All of this is the commandment of the King, the Holy One, Yachid u'miyuchad Baruch Hu.
So it equates mitzvahs and averos that ultimately they're not that different. They're just two ways to get to the same place.
We've been through this before. We've talked about this before, but just to repeat. In mitzvahs, there are two parts to mitzvahs. There are two. The mitzvahs exist on two planes, on two levels. On one level, we say that mitzvahs are there to benefit us. The Medrash says, "Le'nitnu ha-mitzvahs ela l'tzaref b'hanas habriyas." They're there to refine us. Every mitzvah we do has a benefit. Conversely, every avera that is done causes damage. And from that perspective, so mitzvahs and averas, some are more important, some are less important. And obviously you can't compare a person who's busy going and stealing and killing and the chveis and doing every avera to me who's just that would be me. That my problem is only that I learn, but I only push myself to learn a little more than my nature, and I don't push myself a lot, or I don't have enough kavanah. There's no question that the damage that person is doing is much greater than the damage that I'm doing, and the mitzvahs I'm doing are definitely, outweigh that which that person is doing. So that's true on one level, on one plane. That's one perspective. On another level, however, mitzvahs are Hashem's ratzon, they're Hashem's will. On that level, Torah is kadma la'olam. We talk about Torah. Torah preceded the world. What does that mean, that Torah precedes the world? What does that mean? It doesn't mean time-wise, because there was no time before the world was created. When we say that Torah precedes the world, it means that conceptually it precedes the world. It's higher than the world. Torah and mitzvahs are not there for the purposes of the world. They're not there, but the opposite way around. The world was created for mitzvahs. On that level, we can't say that the mitzvahs are there to benefit us. Because when we say the mitzvahs are there to benefit us or to harm us, that means that Hashem created a world and created people, and He said, again, when I say then, first this, that, I don't mean in time, I'm talking conceptually. First He decided He wants a world and He wants people, and then He said, but these people need rules, they need laws. They need to be kept in the straight and steady. So therefore, here are the laws. In that case, the world precedes Torah, because the Torah is there for the benefit of us and to make sure that everything is done properly and that we do what's right and don't do what's wrong. If the Torah precedes the world, that means that Hashem had a desire. The desire was that we should put on tefillin, that we should give tzedakah, we should put up a mezuzah, we should keep Shabbos, we shouldn't eat kosher, we shouldn't eat non-kosher. And He created the world in order to be able to actualize those desires. But there is no reason for Hashem's mitzvahs. There's no reason. It's all Hashem's ratzon. And actually the words that He uses in Tanya, Hakoili mitzvahs hamelach hakadosh. These are the decrees, the mitzvahs of the King who is kadosh, who is completely removed and above and beyond the world. So on that level, there is no difference between this kind of mitzvah and that kind of mitzvah, this kind of avera and that kind of avera. At that level, there's one simple question. At this moment, are you batel to Hashem? Are you doing what Hashem wants? Or are you right now giving into Yetzer Hara? Now that could take many forms. You could be doing, because there are many ways to do what Hashem wants. There are many ways to give into Yetzer Hara, but those are details. Those are all details. The main thing isn't the form in which the being batel to Hashem takes. It's not which mitzvah you're doing. And it makes no difference in which way you're violating Hashem's will. The question is, it's like, are you you're with us or you're against us? Are you right now batel to Hashem or you're not batel to Hashem? That person, that lowlife, when they're doing their averos, they're not batel to Hashem. They're not doing mitzvahs Hashem. They're not doing what Hashem wants of them at that moment. Which means they're being independent. They're not batel. When you're davening and you're not having enough kavana, you're also not doing what Hashem wants you to do. You're giving into your nefesh mahamis. You're not being batel. So on a deeper level, what's the difference? I mean, this is the basics of Tanya, which we've discussed many times. On the deepest level, all the life of a Yid is a question, today in digital age, you have all these, you look at a computer screen or a digital monitor, anything that's digital, or your phone call, which is everything you're hearing is digital. Some of you probably remember analog phones or on television and radio had antennas, right? Okay, the radio still does actually, right? But all television already now is no such thing as antennas.
Digital.
So what is digital? What?
I think they still have digital.
No, a few years ago they phased it out. If you have just a television with antenna, you don't get anything today.
No, I think they made it digital now. You have it. You can see
Okay, so everything
is antenna, but through the digital.
Okay, but today digital phones, everything's digital. What is digital? The word it comes from the word digit, right?
Zeros.
Everything's zeros or ones, right? So you're watching this video, a Jewish video, obviously, right? And all these colors and voice sounds and everything, and it boils down to everything. It's either a zero or it's a one. And what's the hirab avodas Hashem from the digitalization of society? Is that ultimately everything is either a zero or a one. Either you're a zero. That's a good thing. That means you batel Hashem.
One.
No. Either you're a zero, which means you're batel Hashem, which means at this moment, or you're a one. You're a Matisyahu.
W-O-N.
Okay, or you could say it the other way around. Either you're a one, you're connected to the one, or you're a zero. Whichever way you want to look at it. But the point remains. So what you're doing at this moment is not relevant. It's not the what, it's what's behind it. At this moment, you're eating, you're drinking, you're sleeping, you're doing a mitzvah. At this moment, are you doing what Hashem wants or not? That's what life boils down to. Is it a zero or is it a one? Are you doing what Hashem wants or not? So you're getting hung up and saying, that person's Aveda, which the person did, is a worse Aveda. My Aveda, it makes no difference. It makes no difference. If you are not doing what Hashem wants at this moment, so Mali, as the Alter Rebbe says, Mali bechinas surmirau, Mali bechinas vasetov. Weiter, 4 lines from the top. V'chein b'shar mitzvahs, the same is true when it comes to all other mitzvahs. In other words, the struggle we find in other mitzvahs. U'befrat b'davar shebamamen, especially as we all know the struggle when it comes to financial things. K'mei avodas hatzdaka o kai gavna, the struggle to give tzedakah properly, which as we know it's we have to give tzedakah, and we have to give a lot of tzedakah, and we have to give the Gemara, I don't remember the details now, but the Gemara, I didn't think of this when I was preparing the class, but it came to my mind that the daughter of, who is the one who was digging wells always for the people in Yerushalayim? I don't know. I don't remember. I remember the name now. But, sorry, what? No. There was a very, very big Baal Tzedakah. I don't remember the name right now. What? Maybe Nakim Ben Gurion. Maybe that's what it was. The name is escaping me right now. But there's, and during the Churban Abayis, so her job was, I'll find the Makkah. Next week I'll tell you the Gemara where it is. That she used to go into, out of hunger. She used to collect kernels of grain out of animal feces. Right? What?
You want to mention it?
What?
Might be in the Baal Shem.
And yeah. So do you remember the name of the person? And why? And the Gemara says because the father didn't give it tzedakah. What do you mean the father didn't give tzedakah? What?
Ben Gurion.
Was Nakim Ben Gurion?
Yeah.
What do we mean? He was a
was a
tremendous.
daughter of Ben Gurion.
Yeah.
I forgot her name first.
There was a tremendous Baal Shem Tov. The Gemara says it's true. Aber kideboy leila mevad loy ovid. He didn't give
His fair,
commensurate what
his fair share, right?
to what he could have given. Yeah, what he could have
He
given.
gave a lot.
So,
He gave more than 10%.
it's a tremendous Baal Shem Tov. But when it comes to avodas hatzedakah, it's a very big struggle to give to give tzedakah and when we're asked in a prompt way and with a smile, and to give also as much as tzedakah we could give. And I think we definitely mentioned a previous occasion when someone, a wealthy person, once asked the Rebbe how much tzedakah he has to give.
Give till it hurts.
And the Rebbe answered, you have to give till it hurts, right? If it doesn't hurt, you haven't given. Yeah. So you notice over here that the Alter Rebbe gives over here 3 examples. He gives examples of davening, and he gives an example of learning Torah, an example of tzedakah, which is the 3 general 3 things. The world stands on al Torah, al avodah, al gemilas chasadim. So you have a tzedakah, which is milas chasadim, and Torah, and avodah, which is avodah satfilah. And now the Alter Rebbe is going to say, and the truth is, even in Sur Meirah, yachol kol ish maskil imtzei benafshay. So every single wise person can find by himself, she'enei sar meirah, she'enei sar legamri mahara. He's not completely left ra bakel mikel koil, completely. B'makim shetzarach l'mulchama atzuma ke'erech hanal, in a place where you need a mulchama, again, on the level of that mulchama which that person who you want to judge is having. You note the words bakel mikel koil over here. So bakel mikel koil is a reference to 3 avis. Right? By Avram it says Hashem berach as Avram bakoil, and mikoil is that Yitzchak said va'eichel mikoil, and Yaakov it says the word koil. Right? What did he say? He told Esav yesh li koil. So before, remember, we said there were 3 examples of Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Chasadim. The 3 avis also represents the 3 kavim. Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Chasadim. Avram was Gemilas Chasadim, and Yitzchak was Avodah, and Yaakov was Yishtam Yeshiv Ahalam, he was Torah. So we have also, in Sur Meirah also, you have in the 3 kavim, the 3 different general categories of mitzvahs. So when you need to have a real mulchama, we don't always make the mulchama. Even when the mulchama doesn't require such a great, even if it doesn't require such a great mulchama. Examples, for example, to stop in the middle of a pleasant conversation, a sipur or a story, bignus chaverei, about which is somewhat derogatory to someone else. We're not talking here about lashon hara mamish, because we're talking, but so you're talking about someone, you're speaking about someone, and the conversation is not so complimentary to the person. Even if it's a very, a small, it's not a big deal. And it's true. Let's stop over here. We all know how difficult it is. You're talking with a friend, you're schmoozing, you're talking about a certain person. Conversation takes a turn. It's derogatory. We're not talking about saying nasty things about another person. Have to bring examples. We all know. And he's saying something, and it's not the nicest thing. And it's true. To stop in the middle of the conversation and say, stop, I can't do that. It's a very big mulchama. We all know it sounds simple, it sounds easy, but it's not. It's a big mulchama. And then what? You'll make an enemy if you stop the conversation. Time to get new friends. And sometimes you're saying this about another person to vindicate yourself. As is known, the Gemara says in Baba Basra, Rab Shimon. It's an interesting story. Reb Shimon told Aviv Rabbeinu HaKadosh, told his father Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Lavana kasvei el Yehuda chayta kasvei. I did not write this, Yehuda, the tailor, wrote it. What's the background to the story? So the Gemara says, there's a Peirik in Baba Basra, which a part of it is devoted to a din called a get mekusher. Anyone heard of a get mekusher? A get, which is a tied up get. It's a very, very complicated and ornate get. Basically, it's a get that's written just like an accordion. So you write one line, and then you fold it over, and then the witness sign on the back over here, and then you sew that part together. Okay. And then you write the next line over here, fold it over again, the witnesses sign over here, and you sew it again. And every line, you fold it over, witnesses sign the other side, and then you sew it together. It's a complicated get. It obviously takes much more time to write and to do than a normal get. And it's also not only complicated practically, but there are also many halachas about how a get like this sort should be written. And it has to make sure that it's valid, because you're writing the edim on the back side. It's not a usual. It's not just simple a matter. There's a lot of halachas involved. What's the purpose of this? So in ancient times, in times of the Mishnah, times of the Gemara, it's not clear exactly when this practice ended. Kohanim, if a kohen wanted to divorce his wife, he would write for her a get mekusher. Why is that? So there's a combination of several factors over here. Factor number one is the Kehanim are angry people. And the Kehanim over here, you're a Kohen. That's right. As they state, Kehanim kasanamim. Kehanim are angry people.
Short-tempered.
Short-tempered. Yeah, what?
You're going to make him angry?
You're going to make him angry.
They could get angry.
No, I'm part of the fraternity also, so
You're a Kohen also.
I'm a Kohen also, yeah.
Angry people, they have a short temper.
Short temper. Kasanamim, as they state.
You're a good company.
That's number one. So that's factor number one. Factor number two is that a Kohen cannot marry a divorcee, and that includes his own wife. If he divorces his own wife, he's not allowed to remarry his own wife. Factor number three is that until 1,000 years ago, until the times of Rabbeinu Gershom Meir HaGoyla, a person was allowed to divorce his wife without her consent. In other words, he gave her a get, whether she agreed to or not. What?
Thrown into a chotzer.
Yeah, and that was considered a get. So therefore, Chazal were concerned like this: the kohen is going to come home one night, and he'll find that his wife made the vegetable soup instead of carrot soup, like he likes it, or like he requested in the morning. The wife forgot Nabach, and the husband, who's the kohen, is going to get all angry. He's going to run to the sefer, and he's going to write up a get. And he's going to give it to his wife, whether against right. She's going to say, "I don't want it. I'm sorry, I forgot. I didn't know you forgot about the carrot soup order." And then 3 hours later, he's going to calm down a little, and then he's really going to start crying into his soup, to follow that. What kind of mistake I made that I divorced my wife, and it's too late, and there's nothing he can do about it. Right. So Chum said, "What are we going to do? We're going to make the kohen. We're going to slow down the process. So the get which a kohen has to write is a whole long process, with the hope being that by the time the get is written, which presumably takes a special professional, it can't be done by any sefer, and it takes a long time. By that time, the kohen will have calmed down, and maybe his wife will have convinced him to join her in a marriage therapy session, and also Shalom al Yisroel, and the get isn't needed anymore." Now, again, these three factors are all important, because if the Kohen weren't angry people, then it wouldn't be a big deal, right? And also, if the Kohen would be able to remarry his divorced wife, then once again, it's a big deal. So he'll divorce her, and 3 hours later, when you realize it's a mistake, so you have another simcha to celebrate. And also I looked into this. I didn't find anyone saying this specifically, but it would seem that the Chayrim, the Rabbeinu Gershom, made this get mekusher obsolete and unneeded. Because now, if the husband comes home with the get and says to his wife, "I'm divorcing you because you gave me the vegetable soup," the wife says, "Sorry, not taking the get. Let's wait 2-3 days," right? And therefore, so the whole point, the whole purpose seems to have been obviated ever since then.
The get is possible. I mean, if you're going to give a get, you're not allowed to do it. But what if you do it? Just give it. That it's invalid.
It's a good question. I don't know. On the side, I once saw a letter from the Rebbe where the Rebbe says a vart. We know that Rabbeinu Gershom, he has a unique title. There's no one else who, Rabbeinu Gershom Ma'ir HaGoyla, the light of the diaspora, the one who lights up the gullus. No one else was zeicha to a similar title. So what's up with Rabbeinu Gershom Meir HaGoyla dafka by him? So he says, we know that Magid Varav Yaakov Hukav Mishpatav Yisroel, that Hashem observes all the mitzvahs that we have, that he has given us, including those mitzvahs that are mitzvahs derabanan and gzeres derabanan. So when we're in Galus, we know that us and Hashem, are ish v'isha, we're husband and wife. So the takanas of Ravina Gershom, they light up our Galus because they console us, because we realize that number one, Hashem can't divorce us against our will. No matter what happens in Galus, no matter what the Madriga of Klal Yisrael is, He is stuck with us. That's number one. And also that He can't take another nation. He can't marry two wives. So if Hashem says, okay, I'm stuck with you, but let me also, I'll try out the Venezuelans. No, He can't do that either because you're not allowed to take more than one wife. So Kaviyachol Hashem is stuck with us, and that is that is an accomplishment of Rabbeinu Gershom because of his Gzeira. Anyways, back to, so what happened was that there was once by Shir, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the editor of the Mishnah, was sitting, and someone brought before him a get mekusher. And he looked at it and he found a slight mistake in the get, which is not a big deal. When I say it's not a big deal, that means it's very complicated. It's not the ma'akiv. It's not a big embarrassment for the one who wrote it. So he made a little mistake. It wasn't. It's very complicated halachas. Now Rebbe thought that his son had written it. This get, his son Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Shimon turned to his father and told him, "Lava na kasve. I didn't write it. Ella Yehuda chayta kasve. It was written by Yehuda the tailor." Amar le, and his father tells him, "Klach lashon hara. Stop speaking lashon hara." So here again, this is an example of something which is a small genai. It's not a big deal, and it's emes, and it was said l'nakis esatzmei. He said it to vindicate himself, and his father told him that's not the way we speak. And it says also, the Alter Rebbe adds in, he said, "Mahada Amar Reb Shimon la'aviv Rabbeinu HaKadosh." There was also even an element of kibudav over here, because he knew that his father was pained by the fact that by his perception that he had written that get, his own son. So it was even an element of kibudav, and still the Rebbe said, "There's no way you could talk like that." And this is very common, very, very common, whether in the workplace or whether in the home. And why did you do this? Why did you do that? Me? What are you talking? Me? Him? Right? Spouse walks in. Why is the kitchen a mess? Me? I cleaned up after supper. What?
You have to be.
The name was the problem.
You can't say anything to indicate either way. It's a whole art to do this. It's not easy.
It's something which is important also to teach our children. I know in my house we have a rule that I never listen. In other words, if one kid says something about another kid, it's like ignored. It's like it's not heard. No, and the kids know that. I'm not interested in hearing. It's a midah. It's a midah to even if it's there to vindicate. Say you didn't do it. That's all I want to hear. I don't want to hear anything else.
But now, according to this, you shouldn't say they didn't do it.
No, why not? You could say you didn't do it.
If there's only two people, then
what?
You can't say someone else.
There's only
Can't
two people.
choose the name.
Okay, if there's two people there, then there's a good shaila for a rav. In other words, by you saying you didn't do it, automatically no. But here he said the name. Allah Yehuda Chayta Kasvi. He says I didn't write it. Yehuda Chayta wrote it. He said the name. Yeah. And then he says Ayin Sham. Take a look over there. Gemara Reish Peirik Yudah Baba Basra. So Ayin Sham. There's actually another story he brings down over there. That it says it's a similar type of story that Rebbe was once reading from a Sefer Tehillim. Except in those days he didn't have Sefer Tehillim. It was a written scroll, a parchment. And Rebbe said, look how beautiful. It's written so beautifully. So his son Rabbi Shimon says, and again Rebbe thought that his son had written it. And again the son said, Lav Anar Kasve, I didn't write it. Yehuda Chayta Kasve. It was again written by the same Yehuda Chayta. So again, Rabbi told him, "Klach lashon hara. Go away from lashon hara."
What's the gnus? He's giving a shvach.
Isn't that shevach to the...
Right. So if you look in Rambam, you learn in Shulchan Aruch, there's something called avak lashon hara. And avak lashon hara is that if you say something nice about someone in front of a large crowd, and that includes also people who don't like the person, well, you cause you're causing that other people should, no, it's not so nice, take a look over here, you made a mistake, kapitel lamed, So therefore, sometimes it's better, but it just goes to show how careful we have to be when we're speaking. That sometimes even when you're saying something which is a good thing, you have to always consider, in the company that I'm in, could that shvach, can that praise that I'm giving, can that trigger someone to say something bad? In which case, I also would take responsibility for that. And this is just examples. There are many other such examples. The shchichi tuva, things that are very common, that there are struggles that we don't come out victorious in. And especially when it comes to the idea of kadesh atzchum muterlach, something which we discussed at length in Perek Chav Zayin in chapter 27, of sanctifying ourselves and being holy, even in those areas that are permitted. Shehu midiraisa, which is mentioned according to the Ramban. This is a mitzvah deraisa, which means the pasuk says kedoshim tiyu v'skadishna, to be holy. So this is definitely an area of sur mirah. If a person indulges in an area which is not necessary, so that's the area of sur mirah. And even if you're going to say that there are other opinions that hold the kadesh asfam muterlach, that idea of sanctifying oneself and abstaining even in those areas which are permitted, so the others who say that it's not minat Torah but it's rabbinic, v'gam divrei seifrim chamurim divrei Torah v'chulu. Let's make a difference. The words of the Chachamim are even more stringent than the words of the Torah. Ella but shakol elu, with regards to all these things, anything similar to them. These are from the Vedas sha'adam dash ba'akevav, that a person steps on, tramples with his heel. And then they become, it's almost as if they're permitted, machmas, sha'avar v'shana v'chulu, because we've done them once and twice and repeated it, etc. Stop. So the Alter Rebbe has laid out his case, because in case you needed help jogging your memory and finding different areas in your life where you're not struggling the way you should have, the Alter Rebbe gave you examples. So we're not being judgmental anymore. The problem is that all these cheshbonos, all these calculations and all these thoughts that we have, they put me on par with every other person. I see another the person that might seem that person is a much bigger Russia than me and does Averis, but if you consider this struggle against a struggle, right, apples to apples, you realize you're on par. But if I'm on par with the other person, then why does the Mishnah say "V'hevi shfal ruach b'fnei kol adam," that I should be humble before every person? Shfal ruach means I view myself as lower. Okay, so you told me that even though I see this person as a lowlife and absolutely does these depraved things, I cannot condescend, I cannot consider myself higher or better or greater than that person. Okay, I'm a Kabbal, I accept. Alter Rebbe made a convincing argument. But why am I lower than that person? What makes me lower? And that was the question, if you remember last week, that we began with. Aval be'emes, in truth, im hu yidei sefer, if you are a person who's a knowledgeable person, you're yidei sefer. Umachzik b'teiras Hashem, and you hold dear the Torah of Hashem, v'kir vasalikim yechpatz, and you desire the closeness of Hashem. Then God then in that case your sin is greater than when you can bear. Vashmase gadla bekifle kiflaim, and your guilt is greater, doubled and redoubled. The fact that you're not battling Yitzhahara be'erech u'bechinas milchama atzuma hanal, even though Taka requires that incredible battle, as mentioned earlier, your guilt is so much greater. Me'ashmas kal shebekalim, than the guilt of that lowlife, miyesh v'kranis, who sits on the street corners, harachoikim Hashem v'teirasoi, who are distant from Hashem and His Torah. Ve'ein ashmasam gedela kol kach, so therefore they can't be blamed so much. B'meh she'einam koivshim yisram habayir keish lahava, that they don't control their Yetzer Hara, which burns like a blazing fire, due to the fear of Hashem, that sees all of their actions. Their guilt is not as great as is the guilt of the one who's close to Hashem, into Hashem's Torah and to Hashem's service. So, you're not, in your struggles, you're not succeeding. That lowlife is not succeeding in his struggles. Who is more guilty? You. What do you expect from him? He's a lowlife. You sit, you daven, you learn. You know, in Slichas. So one of the things that we say Slichas on Yom Kippur, we say, Al tashlichenu milfanecha, don't cast us away from before you. V'ruach gadshecha, al tikach mimenu. And don't take away from us your Holy Spirit, your Ruach HaKodesh. So I once heard from a chassid, he asked, we're saying, V'ruach gadshecha, al tikach mimenu, don't take it away. Maybe you've already taken it away. How? In other words, we're starting off with the assumption that we have it. We ask Hashem, don't cast us away. Maybe He already has cast us away. We're assuming that right now we're still before Hashem, and right now we have the Ruach Gadshecha, whatever that means, and we're asking, don't cast us away and don't take away the Ruach Gadshecha. How do we know we have it? So he answered, if you're in shul for slichas, that means that you still have it. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't be saying those. In other words, the fact that you're in shul and you're saying slichas, you can still say v'ruach gadshecha al tikach mimenu. If you're sitting here and learning this Perek in Tanya, then you are more guilty than that lowlife on the street.
It's going to scare people away from coming.
Yeah, so maybe I should be on the street.
Maybe I should be angry.
Why am I bothering?
That's what Stein Malkah says. Stein Malkah says, Yosef das, Yosef machiv. The more Yosef machiv, pain.
The more you know.
The more you know, the more knowledge comes with pain. Yeah, absolutely. And you could say, "What do I need it for?" Right? You could say that. So if that's what life is all about, then adarabah. Go become that low life and see how that works out for you. Tell me if you're happy afterwards. And that's the bottom line is, it's not all equal in life. It's not. There are higher expectations from some people than from others. As Chazal tell us regarding Acher, that the reason why that he was so considered unredeemable is because he knew me, he knew my honor. So therefore you can't compare the guilt of Stam, any Yid who was an apostate, to the guilt of Acher, because he was a Tana, he was a God, Gadol Yisroel. That's why Chazal say al Ami Haaretz, Shezdeines Naslam Kishkagis. They state, it says in Sechtas Yuma, that Ami Haaretz, even Averi does on purpose, the Eibishter considers it as if he did it by mistake. Very important, Maimer Razal. Why? Because what does it mean that he did it on purpose? That he knew that you're not allowed to do it. That's called doing it on purpose. A Yid who isn't from, who never was from, and he's Mechal Shabbos, is that called b'mezid?
No.
But what do you mean? He knows that it says in the Torah you're not allowed to drive on Shabbos. He, in Hebrew school, when he was a conservative Hebrew school, when he was 12, he learned it. So why is it not b'mezid? Because b'mezid doesn't mean only that you're aware that it's forbidden, but you have to have also some sort of appreciation. And I'm a audit who doesn't have an appreciation, therefore, in Bezdin Shal Maila, every Aveda, even those they do on purpose, it's as if they did it by mistake. Why? Because of Taka. The truth is, we say that and also on Yom Kippur, right? Slachna Lavein Al Mazeh. No, what's the lashon? Not that pasuk. Kichalo Am Bishgaga, right? What's the first part? Kichalo Am Bishgaga. What do you mean Kichalo Am Bishgaga? Because there's no question that anyone over here, if we really knew what an Avera was, we would never do an Avera. Would we jump into a fire? We don't jump into a fire. If anyone here had any clue what an Aveira was, we'd never do an Aveira. And if we knew really what a mitzvah is, we would do every mitzvah. So therefore, l'chol ha'am b'shgaga. Essentially, every time a yid does an Aveira, it's b'shgaga. However, you can't. There are levels of the shgaga. Someone is amaretz. In other words, to a certain extent, every Aveira is a shgaga. It's impossible otherwise. But there are degrees. There are degrees, and the more you know. It's not only the more you know in knowledge, but as he says, the more you desire your relationship with Hashem, the more what?
The more you internalize.
The more you internalize, then the Eibishter has higher expectations from you. So therefore, you fail in your struggles. The lowlife fails in his struggles. Your guilt is greater. So yeah. Even before that lowlife, you could look at him and say, okay, he struggles, I struggles. Who's more guilty? What? I am. So with this we have finished the Perek about Adam, and Mir Hashem, before we begin next week, we will we'll recap with the larger structure and where we're holding and how this entered over here and how we will move into next Perek. Have a good Shabbos, everyone. I'll see you Mir Hashem next week.
Lech sheyavut zu man es